All right, good morning, everyone. We will call the Joint Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources Committee to order on Tuesday, October 31st. Would you please call the roll?
Good morning, Madam Chairman. This is roll call for October 31st, 2023. Senator French.
Here.
Senator Hicks.
Excused.
Senator Ide.
Here.
Senator Kolb.
Present.
Senator Larson.
Here.
Representative Alaman.
Present.
Representative Allred.
Here.
Representative Banks.
Here.
Representative Conrad.
Here.
Representative Davis.
Excused.
Representative Slagle.
Present.
Representative Winter.
Here.
Chairman Eklund.
Here. Here.
Co-Chairman Steinmetz.
Here.
Co-Chairman Crago.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Katie. So we'll get right to work, but before we do, we'd like to thank the University of Wyoming for hosting us and for the wonderful tour and refreshments yesterday. We enjoyed looking at all of our land grant university resources, and we really appreciated the time and the effort that they put in to show us around and show us all the innovations and a few areas where we might be able to help out a little and upgrade a few things. So we appreciate that. With that, committee, what we're going to do is we're going to have a reconsideration of 24 LSO 70 state land lease amendments. If you recall, this is the bill that we worked on, the postage date being the date the state lands will receive that application and consider that in their office. And then also we talked about how we would make payment, and we amended that to include specie legal tender. With that there was a little bit of consternation about how that might work. And so with that, I would, just to refresh your memory, I would entertain a motion to reconsider. And what that will require is we'll have a motion, it will be a voice vote, and then should we choose to pass the bill again, that will be a roll call vote. There is one amendment we will be making to the bill. The committee did choose to sponsor this bill, so it is a committee bill, and we'll just make that distinction as well. So with that, I would entertain a motion to reconsider.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So moved.
Senator Ide, thank you. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, Representative Allred seconds. With that, Senator Ide, would you like to present your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So on, let's see here, on the bill, page 2, down to line 18.
Just one moment.
Sure.
We have staff comment. Go ahead, Anna. Oh, we have to vote on the reconsideration. My apologies. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion passes. Thank you to our good staff. We'll shake off the dust today and get going. Okay, Senator Ide, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to the bill on page 2, line 18. I think maybe the copy that you all have, after personal check, it says comma payment, comma specie legal tender, gold or silver. So what we've tried to do here is refine this. I've spoken with the chair or with the state treasurer on how we can implement this if in fact somebody chooses to pay their grazing lease fees with specie or specie legal tender. And just to help everybody out maybe a little bit, that what we did on this bill, and I'll
Senator Ide.
Yeah.
Would you make your amendment and then we'll have discussion on it? We'll see if we can get a second and follow that procedure.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank
Thank you
you
for correction on me here. So basically what this will change here is on the bill, line 18, where after after electronic payment, it will read specie or specie legal tender as provided by WS 9-4-102 and 9-4-103 as facilitated by the state treasurer. That's all there is in this amendment here. So
All right, could I
Thank you.
get a second on that amendment? All right, seconded by French, moved by Ide, and now you can go ahead and explain your amendment.
thank you, Madam Chair. So just to explain this amendment here, that Wyoming statute 9-4, 1302 and 1303 refers back to the original Wyoming Legal Tender Act bill in 2018 that defines what specie and specie legal tender is. I don't probably need to, I'll just be brief on it, just so everybody knows. Specie means coin having gold or silver content, or refined gold or silver bullion, which is coin stamped or imprinted with its weight and purity and valued primarily based on its metal content and not its form. And then specie legal tender, the definition of that is specie coin issued by the United States government at any time, specie coin issued by any foreign government at any time, and then other specie that a federal court of competent jurisdiction and final unappealable order rules to be within the state authority. So this gets directly to, the statute that defines specie and specie legal tender. And I've talked to the state treasurer and he's all on board with being able to do this. And he said that they wouldn't mind facilitating it. I'm working with some outside companies right now to get us some rules and how the state treasurer can have this very easy to implement if somebody chooses to do that. I think that it's probably unlikely that that's even going to happen, but I think it's good to have it in place. With what's coming down the road, cashless society, central bank digital currencies, I think it's a good measure to protect our state and financial privacy for people that don't want to use what's coming down the pike, or it looks like it's coming down the pike. Lastly, I'll just mention that the United States Constitution states in Article 1, Section 10, quote, "No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a payment in payment of debts." So effectively, what I'm trying to do here is abide by the U.S. Constitution, which we swore oath to protect, defend, and I think we're honoring that clause in the U.S. Constitution with this amendment. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion on the amendment? Go ahead, Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just could you answer a few questions about this? First, the cost of the transaction. It's going to be bared by the person wishing to have that transaction for the whatever precious metals they have, because there's going to be some handling cost. It has to be. And then secondarily, I had a question just about when you have a coin that is both gold and has a legal tender value, say it's $50, but really the coin's a $2,000 coin with present gold prices today. Are they going to value it at the precious metals price or the face value of the coin on what it says on that denomination of the coin? Those are my two questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, Senator Ide, would you like to answer that?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Kolb. It's a great question. So yeah, specifically like on a U.S. minted gold eagle, it will have the face value of that as $50, which, the value of the coin and its weight and its purity is approximately $2,000. And, the spot price of precious metals is pretty much posted on any financial website. So in this instance, and going back to our Wyoming Legal Tender Act bill, that would be it would be valued as its weight and its purity. So that's a great question because if you I've talked to people before when they say that they want to sell their land and they want to accept gold, they can accept it as face value instead of the weight and measure, and it would be a lot less as far as paying capital gains income tax. So that's a good question, and I think it's going to be pretty simple once the state treasurer and he's relying on me to help them get plugged in with something that is easy for people to use if they want to do that transaction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, any further questions? Further questions? Seeing none. All those, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, so represent, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Madam Chairman, thank you. So I guess when we did this bill last time, and we brought the amendment, this specie legal tender amendment at the end. And I should have spoken up then. My feeling is that's a bigger issue. I mean, it's something that should apply, if we're going to do that, it should apply to all of our state agencies that accept money, not just state lands. And I think it's a bigger discussion than what this bill is trying to get at. I mean, I think we were trying to, my thought was, as we keep this bill simple, we do the postage, we do the postage date mark, which is really what we were trying to get at. And then if we want to go after the issue of gold payment or silver payment or any other specie payment, that we do that in a broader sense, so that it doesn't apply only to state lands, because I think there's an option for that out there to work on. And so I would like to just see that part taken out of this bill completely, and then let's just deal with the postage stamp mark for now, because I think that's going to be super helpful to our producers in the state. It's going to be super helpful to State Lands Office, who they specifically asked for this because they don't believe the statute allows for it right now. And so that's the issue I want to deal with, not necessarily the payment part of it. And so just voicing I guess I'm not really for or against the amendment, because the amendment doesn't change the specie legal tender part of the bill. And so I'm afraid what that part of the bill as written right now will do is keep us from passing the issue that really we need to pass as this committee, as the Ag Committee, which is helping our ag producers be able to make sure their applications are considered on time the second they put them in the mail and the second they're postmarked. And so neither for or against the amendment. I'd like to just see us bring an amendment, just taking that out, passing the bill without it in there, and then working on the gold and silver issue later in a broader sense. And so that's how I feel about that. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, Representative Conrad.
Madam Chair, thank you. Just a clarification. Did I understand the face value of the coin was the value, or was it the precious metal content, or was it a combination of both? I don't think that was answered from my perspective.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Conrad, that's a good question. No, it would have nothing to do with the face value that's stamped on, say, a gold eagle minted by the U.S. government. Any precious metals transactions are on their weight and purity. So whatever the spot price of gold or silver is on that particular day, and that's some of the nuances that the treasurer and some of the help we're going to have to get on this is, when they receive it, what is the spot price of the transaction on that particular time. So yes, it would, to answer your question, it's just purely on the value of the metal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Representative Allemond.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I look at this as a proactive amendment. We may not need it today, and it probably won't be used today. But in the very near future, which could be next year or 5 or 10 years from now, this could very much help our residents of Wyoming, and it's constitutional that we are supposed to do this. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Senator Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'm hesitant to vote yes on this, and I'll explain why. I think number one is brought up earlier. It's not broad enough. We're going to accept precious metals is to pay debt in the state of Wyoming, it has to apply, in my mind, to everything, not just this particular little vehicle to get it approved. I think and it has not, in the details of this transaction, this precious metals transaction has not been clarified with the state treasurer. We do not have a working mechanism to make this a real thing yet. So I'd be voting on something that I'm hoping the state treasurer would continue to support. And I'd also haven't heard the transactional fee cost that's going to go along with the precious metals transaction. You cannot just buy gold at spot prices, and we can't take gold at spot prices. We have to have a deduction for the cost of handling said materials. It's anyone who's tried to buy precious metals knows this. So there's going to be a cost of the transaction. I think that has to be abundantly clear. And it obviously is going to be helped, the treasurer's office is going to do it, but it's not a full plan yet. I'm in favor of us using precious metals to pay debt. But we have to have a mechanism that works, and it has to be a mechanism in my mind that works for all forms of debt being paid for in the state of Wyoming. I think that's a great idea. So I like the idea. I'm supportive of the idea, but not this vehicle. I think it muddies up the bill a bit. So anyway, thank you, Madam Chairman.
All right. Any further discussion? I do have one thing that I think we might want to consider with what Senator Cole brought up, and that is in lines 20 through 23, when we're doing an electronic payment, we say that there's an applicable fee associated with an electronic payment. So we may want to add the language in that as well, that there will be an associated fee to pay with that. And I would look for Anna to maybe look at that while we dispose of this amendment that we have before us now. So seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No?
No.
Okay, so it looks like we only had 3 against, and it has to be a majority of each chamber. So the House in favor, please raise your hand, just so staff knows
That are in favor.
that are in favor, House, not Senate.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have 3 in the House and Eklund and Davis online. I'm not sure how they're voting. If you're in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. The amendment to the amendment, okay. Did you get that recorded? Did that help you? All right, and Senate in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. All right, opposed in the House, please raise your hand. And opposed in the Senate, please raise your hand. All right, so have you got that recorded? Did the amendment pass or fail?
Failed in the House.
It looked like it failed in the House to me. All right, so the bill will stay as is unless there's another amendment. Is there another amendment to the bill? Another amendment?
Madam Chairman, I would propose amendment.
Okay, go ahead, Co-Chairman Craigo.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So on line 18, I would strike specie legal tender through the word silver on line 19.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Conrad. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
Okay, we're gonna need a show of hands on that too. All those in favor in the House, please raise your hands. Okay, that looks like 5. Opposed in the House, please raise your hands. 5-2, is that correct, what you guys have? Oh, 6-3, okay. Oh, Allemond and Banks. Okay, sorry, I missed you guys. All right, in the Senate, all those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Opposed, raise your hand. Okay, it failed in the Senate. 4-1. So the bill remains the same as it left before. So we will need a roll call vote on the bill.
We want to take public comment.
Oh, public comment first.
Madam Chair,
That's right. Go ahead.
thank you. I'm a little bit confused exactly how we're moving on this. So the public comment and then we're going to vote on the bill.
Yes,
And what exactly are we voting on?
the bill as we sponsored it last time because your amendment failed. As you remember, we took rules on the Ag Committee. It has to be a majority of both bodies to pass on any motion. And so because we did not have a majority in the House, your amendment failed. And so we have to move the bill forward as it is. And obviously, there's a lot more of the process to go through.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right,
Madam Chairman, may I ask,
go ahead.
just for a point of clarification, maybe from LSO,
Yes,
with
go
your
ahead.
permission?
Of course.
So regarding the rules and the rules governing joint interim, does the majority of both houses apply only to final passage, or does it apply to the amendments as well? I've always understood it applied to final passage, but not to amending the bill.
Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chairman, Co-Chairman Crago, the way that the rules are written, I believe it applies to anything. Oh, well, and actually, we got clarification from somebody in the office, and he said it was just for the final bill.
Oh, it's just for the final bill. I thought it applied to anything.
Okay,
I stand corrected. So the amendment passed then.
okay,
The Ide amendment would pass. Is
Okay.
that correct?
I think so, yes, right?
Okay, and we'll need to clarify that because when Chairman Eklund and we put the rules together and everyone voted on it, I was on the understanding that it was anything that we voted on, we had to have a majority of both houses.
Josh Anderson in the office just said that it's just for the final bill,
Okay,
so.
well, I stand corrected. My apologies. So then the amendment has passed, or did it? We will revote on the Ide amendment and I apologize for that. I was under the impression it was every action we took as Anna was, so we apologize for that. So we will revote on the Ide amendment. My apologies for that. So all those in favor of the original Ide amendment, please raise your hands. It will be a majority of the committee, not a majority of each body. So. All right, so what is the count? Okay, 8 ayes. Those opposed, please raise your hand. Six noes, the amendment has passed. Thank you, Co-Chairman, for clarifying that for us and our committee operations. All right. So now we will go to public comment. And before we do that, we'll bring up the agency if they've got any thing to visit with us about on this bill, and then we'll go to public comment.
Point of order, Madam Chairman.
Go ahead.
I guess I don't know what the final vote was on my amendment as well, but I think it would have been similar.
Would you like to revote on your amendment as well?
Well, at least for the record, yes.
Okay, for
please.
the record, we'll revote on the Crago amendment before, thank you for that. The Crago amendment to delete the addition of the specie legal tender. The thing that I don't understand is you're going to have to do a new amendment because now we've adopted the Ide amendment. So I think you would have to re-amend the bill to remove the Ide amendment, if that makes sense, Co-Chairman. Now that we've learned a lot today, so.
Madam Chairman, it does make sense. And so on line 18, I would strike the Ide amendment.
All right, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Representative Conrad. Is there any discussion?
And just to be clear, Madam Chairman, so this would go back to the original version of the bill, wherein it allowed for electronic payment, but no other form of payment other than what was already in this statute.
Correct, because we've amended the bill to encapsulate the Ide amendment, and then it would go back to only electronic payments. And we would, whatever it takes to make that conforming. So is everyone clear what we're voting on? Is there any discussion? Where it's a revote, I don't know that we need to discuss that any further. We're just taking a revote, but what it would be is deleting the Ide amendment. Okay, all right. Everybody clear as mud? Are you ready to vote? All right. All those in favor of the Crago amendment, please raise your hand. Okay. It looks like 8. Is that correct, Katie? 7? 7? I can't really see everybody. Okay. So 7-4, those opposed, raise your hand. 7-7, okay. So it fails then, okay? All right, well, thank you everyone for that. And now we will go to public comment. Deputy Director Crowder, thank you for making the trip over to visit with us, and go ahead and enlighten us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure I can do that. My name is Jason Crowder, Deputy Director for the Office of State Lands and Investments. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to this bill. One of the questions that I had as I listened to the committee discuss the amendments, and we haven't had a chance to review the amendment, so I apologize for that. But in the discussion, I didn't hear the word electronic being used in there. We were talking about legal tender, and perhaps the word electronic was taken out. But if it is left in, that would be our preference, and that would be one of the main reasons for us supporting or providing this language to you, is the need to expand that to include electronic payments. So I appreciate that, and I'm taking from your head, not that that's still in there. That's great. The other thing that I would just relay is the co-chair mentioned the ability to allow the post stamp submission timeframe for the applications would alleviate a lot of problems in our office. So we appreciate the work that the committee's done there, and to allow the to clarify that the fees paid for electronic payments would be borne by the applicant and not by the state or the office. And so appreciate that. Would also share in the committee's concern and specifically Senator Kolb's concern about how those would be valued when we talk about the specific type of species of legal tender separate from what we're accustomed to taking, and that would be unique to the land office. And we don't currently have a process for doing that, and that we would want to work with the state as a whole, with the executive branch as a whole, to ensure that all of the accounting processes, the internal protocols for safety and security are also taken into consideration when we start accepting those type of payments. And that's a discussion that's much larger than our office, and that we want to make sure that we're doing that statewide. So with that being inserted in this bill and it just being within the office's purview, wanted to make the committee aware we don't have that process. The state doesn't have any guidance for us. And so we're kind of treading uncharted waters at this point. We do feel, just like Senator Ide mentioned, this probably won't happen in the near future, and not sure what it looks like in the far future, but we're not expecting this. We haven't heard a demand for it yet. However, we don't have that process. And one of the stopgaps that the statute does have is the payment has to be acceptable to the director as well. And so at this point, without a process, we probably wouldn't accept it, wouldn't consider it acceptable to the director, because there's not a process to take it in at the moment. So with that, Madam Chair, I think that's all of my comments for you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Crowder. And Director Scoggin and I did have a discussion about this. And so in the Ide amendment, that allows the state treasurer to facilitate the transaction. And she had indicated that that might alleviate some of your concerns with this happening. And then he would be able to put in a process as far as other state agencies, or he would be able to facilitate that. And so we're hoping that that might be something that could then be, spread across all of the agencies. One question I would have for you is on the section that talks about the electronic, if they're paying electronically, that they should pay all applicable fees. Would it help to put the legal tender in that part so that they're paying the fees for that as well?
Madam Chair, I think you might be correct. I'm not sure if I have a good answer for you. We've not ever dealt in that form of payments. We don't know what those fees look like. But the genesis for us appreciating the fact that the applicants pay those fees is that all of these funds go to the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries don't pay any administrative fees for the work that we do for them. So that we have always understood that any fees applied to any type of payment that we receive are borne by the applicant and not borne on the backs of the beneficiaries. So we would expect any new type of payment to have the same thought process behind it, that it's not an administrative fee borne by the state or the beneficiaries.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like Representative Davis online has his hand up, so we'll go to him and then we'll come back to the room.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, I have a question for you on line 13 there, where it says the leases of state land for agricultural and grazing purposes. Are we narrowing our scope too much there? Do we also on state lands have timber and things like that? Do we want to consider those in there?
Go ahead, Mr. Crowder.
Madam Chair, Representative Davis, that's a good catch. This is the only place in statute where the types of payments are this prescriptive. Everywhere else where we accept payment for other uses of state land, there isn't a prescriptive nature on how we can accept those payments. So we feel that that means that it's very broad, and we do accept electronic payments for royalties, for mineral leases, for timber sales, for land sales. It's just in the grazing and agricultural statutes where we find this very prescriptive types of payments that we can accept. So we don't feel any other need to change statute to broaden the ability. If legal tender or a specific type of species were changed to gold or that type of payment, we feel that we already have broad enough ability to accept that in the other leasing realms of our office. So I don't think that we need any other changes right now.
Thank you, Jason, for that clarification.
All right, are you good? All right, we'll go into the room and go to Senator Ide next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Deputy Crowder. Good comment. I'm just curious, this bill, the original statute has, pretty much every form of payment other than electronic, and now hopefully species legal tender. Do you ever or occasionally get paid in cash? I've always kind of wondered that. Does anybody mail cash anymore or bring it down, pay that way for their grazing leases? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Senator Ide, we do. It's extremely rare. In fact, there's one historic story. I wasn't directly involved, but somebody brought in pennies and nickels to pay their lease, and we had to manage that. But we do have safeguards and internal protocol to accept that. It's accepted through the state auditor's office and the treasurer's office as well for how we manage that through. We have a safe in our office that we keep all of that in. But yes, it has happened.
All right. Mr. Co-Chairman Crago.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chairman. So is it your testimony, Deputy Director, that you, based on the language of the bill as we've currently amended, that you don't have to accept gold? Is that the director would not have to accept gold if she doesn't want to? Is that what you're testifying to?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Mr. Co-Chair, I think that if we don't have a process in place to accept payment that is otherwise acceptable in other arenas, the director can exercise that discretion to say that we can't accept that.
Follow up, or you good?
Follow up. So would that apply to the other types of payment set forth in that? Would that apply to electronic as well? If you don't have a system set up, you don't have to. I'm just thinking of the circumstance. It's the committee's desire, based on our vote here today, that state lands take gold. So if somebody shows up at your door and it's the last day to make their payment before they go delinquent, or worse, and they show up with a bag of gold and drop it on your desk, and they're going to say, according to the statute, that's considered payment. What are you going to do about that? Because obviously we don't have a system, which is one of the reasons I don't like the amendment. But what are you going to do at that point? I guess that's my question, because then I think we're in a whole different quandary about whether that's, we're going to end up in appeals and all sorts of stuff, because they're going to say that's payment. You're going to say it's not. And we're going to battle that out for quite some time in the court. So what's going to happen?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Mr. Co-Chair, I think you're pointing to a lot of detail that hasn't been ironed out, that we haven't seen to be able to provide you a really good answer. And in fact, we haven't seen the amendment, so I'm not sure exactly how the amendment would apply to this. What I can see and what's been discussed here is that the words acceptable to the director are still part of the statute, that we can still utilize. And unless the committee changes that we would probably rely on that. And if somebody came in with a bag of gold, we have all of the reasons to be concerned that the committee has already spoke about. One, we don't have a process. Two, we don't have internal protocols. And three, we don't know exactly what the value is unless we know the spot price on that day. If all of those things come together and we can't accept it and we have no way to secure that payment, the director may utilize what's in current statute, which is her discretion to say what's acceptable to her to not. And we may use that in that case. But again, all the details, as the committee has mentioned, have yet to be ironed out, and can't fully answer that question, I guess.
All right, I'll go to Senator Kolb, and then I might have one too. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so it seems that we must remove the director's discretion. That's the question here, because the director could say, nope, I'm not going to accept this because of whatever reasons the director has. Now, if we say we're going to accept electronic payments, that's really what I want to talk about. And this is going to be what it is. I think, frankly, sometimes the things we give to directors and their discretion is too much. Maybe in this case, it seems to be too much to me. So what's the downside of not having the director have a discretion to accept electronic payments? Because I know you folks are smart enough to figure out how to do that and charge a surcharge for said payment. We do it all the time. What's the downside of not stripping that out of there, of removing the director's discretion? I mean, what circumstances could come up? Could you explain that would, facilitate the need for the director's discretion? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, Senator Colvin, and I think it's important to note, we want to accept money. Our whole job is to accept money to generate revenue from these lands. So it's not that we are trying to put up roadblocks to not accepting money. That's our charge. The reason for possibly not accepting a specie legal tender of whatever nature is that we wouldn't have a secure way to handle that once it came into the office, or possibly a way to value that to ensure that it covered the full obligation that it's intended to. The discretion by the director is to ensure that secure and adequate payment is made to the state as required by other statutes and the lease terms. And so that would be the reason she would exercise that discretion possibly. You use the word electronic. We are developing that process right now in our office. It's not currently available to the public, and we're working as we speak with developers to allow that functionality within our office. But if somebody walked up to us today and offered a credit card or some other electronic form of payment, we don't have a process in place right now to accept it. So she would have to use her discretion to say, we're going to need something else until that process gets put in place. So I don't want to say that she's going to abuse her discretion. I would never think that she would ever do that, or any other director, but there's got to be a safe and secure and insurance that the, the obligation is covered.
All right. Follow up, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was only speaking to the electronic payment method. That's what I was speaking towards, not to the other method. Because I agree with you. We haven't figured that out yet. But I think, would you agree that unless we put in here and remove the discretion of the director can use the discretion and then not accept the payment. I think that's the danger that I see here. And I, respectfully, bureaucrats do what they do, and it's not always what we would like intend. So I think that if this is going to work, we have to be, would you agree? Putting the discretion in there guts the entire intent of what statutory change may happen. I realize it's a balancing act, but how would you rectify the balancing act? Just wait? What's your suggestion? We just wait until somehow you develop a way of handling electronic transactions that you haven't done for how many years? That's my quandary. So I'd like to hear what you think about how we can expedite this, or a plan to get this thing moving forward instead of a really an unknown. Would you help? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Senator Kolb, we do have a plan in place to accept electronic payment. And that's why we offered to the committee this amendment to allow that ability when it wasn't there before and the legislature hadn't granted it. We are actively under contract with a developer who is developing this protocol for us right now. And we've worked with different ag groups within the state to see how that would work and to make sure that we're accommodating the needs that they brought to us. And so with their help, we're also developing that process. And so it's not just a thought, it's not a promise, and hopefully someday it'll come. We're actively developing that for the benefit of all the users of the land. But we don't have it yet. And so if somebody came to us with a credit card right now, we could not accept it, even though the statute may say you shall. And if I'm not sure what to do at that point. How we go to another agency, we find some other means to allow that to move forward. But again, the director's discretion is important to ensure that the appropriate payment is secured by the state of Wyoming for the obligation that's been accrued by the user. So if it needs to be paid by a specific date, we need to ensure that compliance of the statute occurs and that it's paid by that date. And we're not holding a credit card number for when the functionality happens. And so she would use her discretion there to say, we need a check instead, something like that.
Right. Senator,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Deputy, those were good comments. I was kind of curious about that as well, as far as if you had everything in place on the electronic payments. So would you agree that the species legal tender and the electronic payments are sort of in the same category right now, as far as not being, able to facilitate it tomorrow on either one of them? Thank you, Madam Chair.
go ahead.
Madam Chair, Senator, as far as not being able to facilitate it tomorrow, yes. Working towards a known outcome, I don't know that they are similar. The state of Wyoming, other agencies, everybody has used online payments, and we understand what that looks like. And that's the goal we're heading towards. What we don't know is the specie legal tender. We don't know what the end game of that looks like. How to value it is one thing. So those details. So not being able to do it tomorrow, yes.
All right. I do have one question for you, and then we'll keep on moving along because we didn't allot a lot of time for this discussion today. But one of the things I was wondering, we have shifted the burden of collecting the funds and valuing the funds to the treasurer's office, who is working on rules right now. So the effective date is July 1st, 2024. And so I'm under the impression that the treasurer's office believes they can have something in place by then. And we've shifted that burden off there. So I just did want to make that statement to you, and it's not necessarily a question, but just so that your office knows, and we'll get you that amendment and that updated bill as soon as possible. Assuming it passes, we still haven't voted on the bill. We're taking public comment. So any further questions for the Deputy Director? Go ahead, Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Question just about what was spoken about on accepting as state treasurer accepting the monies for you. Is that statutorily legal for them to take the money and pay a debt that's supposed to go to your division of government for state lands? I mean, can that work that way? That's an open-ended question. I don't have the answer, but I'm asking you that, is it a problem because you have to receipt the money currently? Statutorily, are you restricted only for you to receipt the money, or can the treasurer do it? That's my question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, if you
Madam,
know the answer. If not, we may have to continue this
Yeah.
via email.
sure, and I don't have the answer to it. What I do know is that the way the process works now is the minute we get funds into the office, they get deposited and they get sent to the treasurer's office immediately. So we don't hold them, but for a very short period of time.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I thank you for making the trip over today, and we'll continue with public comment. I thought I saw a notation that we might have someone online. Ms. Herman is joining us online. Welcome to the Ag Committee, and go ahead with your public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Marguerite Herman here, and I'm joining you as a member of a group called Advocates for School Trust Lands. And frankly, I had planned to testify on another bill that's coming up. So I appreciate being invited into this, but I would just like to underscore the comments from Deputy Director Jason. The Deputy Director of the School Trust Lands of Office of State Lands and Investments. I'm sorry, a little flustered here. That they have very strict guidelines on how to handle money coming in, as he indicated that the money gets deposited immediately. And it sounds like there are a lot of questions still in the air about the handling, the valuation and the handling of these funds. And I appreciate also the committee's work in wanting to open up the possibilities and the options for all our great users of trust lands and all the people who lease it. They're an important part of this piece, and I appreciate the attempt to make it easier for them to use all available means to pay their leases. However, it sounds like the system is not in place, and I would just urge you to keep the director having the discretion until those things are in place, to make sure that the department can handle the funds responsibly, responsible to the beneficiaries, but also to the lessees. So I would just underscore Deputy Crowder's comments and leave that discretion in place for the time being. You can certainly come back later and visit that, but I think for the time being, that discretion does assure the lessees that their money is being handled well, responsibly, and according to the capacity of our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. And I did just want to mention that I don't believe we have any other state land bills before us today. So thank you for your public comment. Is there any further public comment? Further public comment? Seeing none. Oh, Mr. Magagna, come on forward. Welcome back. for
Thank you, Madam
J2.
Chair. Jim McGaggan with the Wyoming Stock Growers Association, and a couple of thoughts on this, and not specific to the provisions on accepting different types of payments. I think that's all right. But as the Deputy Director pointed out, and I believe, to my understanding, this is correct too, that this is the only place in the statutes governing state trust lands that talk about the method of payment. And this is specific to an application to lease. If I'm paying my annual rental on my lease, there's no language that says what's acceptable or unacceptable other than the discretion of the director. And as a thought here, I wonder if this would be an opportunity for this committee to simply strike all the language in here that refers to methods of payment. So it's consistent with all of the other laws, and just say that they must make these payments in a manner acceptable to the state of Wyoming, perhaps, and then maybe leave a sentence in that says the director has the discretion for good cause to not accept the payment or something, some language. I do think we need some flexibility for the director. If someone submitted 5 payments and the checks are never valid, why maybe they need some discretion to say we won't accept those. So I think some discretion is necessary, but if we don't have it anywhere else in the state land statutes, a list of methodologies, seems to me that this is an opportunity for this committee to remove the total list of methodologies, both the new ones and the old ones. And that leaves the discretion to state lands to accept any type of methods that may come along now or in the future. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Magagna. Questions for Mr. Magagna? Questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Ag Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Committee, Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation. Well, I want to make sure I understand where we're at. And I think I do. But as Mr. Magagna said, this would be a very limited use. This would only apply to this section. So it's only for this use, for anything that you would pay to the state government. So to renew my brand, this would not apply, correct? Okay. Okay. I think I get kind of confused easy when you folks know that about me. One thing that I support to be able to use the gold and silver. I think that's an important aspect. There's one of the things that does give me a little bit of pause at this point is not knowing the transaction fees. And it's the same way with the electronic payments. You know, those can vary quite a bit. But I appreciate, you know, typically those are minimal. I know like Albany County Treasurer charges, I believe it's up to 2%. But you know that. Is there a way within this bill to list what the transaction fees were going to be if you use an electronic payment or gold or silver? Because yeah, from the consumer end, the person paying the bill, I think that would be important to know. And I don't know if we could do that in rules, you know, but somehow it needs to be upfront that if you're going to use a credit card, that's going to be a 2% fee. If you're going to use gold bullion or silver, is it going to be a 20% fee, 5%, 1%, whatever? So I would ask that somehow, and perhaps it can be, but I don't see that this has rulemaking. So it probably would need to be in the statutes to list what the applicable fees would be. And I know they would be changed, but at least if they're on the website, the consumer would know upfront what those fees would be. With that, ma'am, I would sit for any questions you or the committee may have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Moline. Any questions? Questions for Mr. Moline? Seeing none. Thank you very much. All right. Is there any further public comment? Further public comment? All right, we will close public comment back to the committee. Is there any discussion from the committee on this bill? Discussion? Representative Allemond.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As I sit here and think about it, we may kill this bill because it has gold and silver. It's a good bill with it. It's a not as good a bill without it, but with it, it's a good bill because in the future, that may be the only way we can pay. I hope that we do not kill this bill just because of the word gold and silver. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative. Mr. Co-Chairman Craigo.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So my fear actually is that we're doing a disservice to the producers of the state of Wyoming. The ranchers and the farmers, the folks that we're supposed to be helping with this bill, which the original intent of the bill was actually the postmark, which solves a bunch of problems. It closes some loopholes that we had when we dealt with a lot of the state land issues last year in revamping a lot of the statutes that pertain to applications, renewals, et cetera. We cleaned up a lot of stuff. We cleared up stuff not only for our producers, but also for the state lands office. And this was the one last little loophole that we needed to clean up because we didn't do it last year. And then at the request of state lands, we added an electronic payment because they felt that would make their life easier on some level, and also some of our producers. By adding gold and silver, I don't think we necessarily kill the bill here today, but I think we endanger it when we get to session. And I think we'll have a hard time getting this through the body because of that. And so my fear is we're doing that at the risk of what the true intent of the bill is, which is to help our folks back home. And so that's why I'm adamantly against it in this bill. On top of that, it appears to me we're going to set up an entire system of payment for gold and silver for one very little discrete level of transactions within the state, which goes back to my earlier comments. I'm not necessarily opposed to what Senator Ide is trying to do. I'm opposed to doing it at this small of a micro level. Is that a good use of our government resources to set up a payment system for only one type of payment? We have thousands of types of payments that need to be transacted through the state on a daily basis. We're talking about setting up an entire system for one of those. Shouldn't we do it for all of them? If it's a good idea for this, then it's a good idea for everything. And so that's my point, is let's do it on a holistic level. Like if we're gonna go down this road and we as a legislature and a state believe that's a good idea, let's make it holistic. Let's make it apply to everything, not just grazing renewals, which is what we're doing with this amendment and with this bill. And so, as we said here today, I will be a no vote on the bill because I think we're creating more problems and creating more issues than we're solving. And I really want to help our producers by closing some of those loopholes in the renewal and application processes. So I'll be a no. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. First, we'll go to Representative Allemond and then to Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is not a disservice to our members or our constituents. This is another option. We still have the postmark in there, which was a concern. We have it in there. The treasurer says he can be set up for these payments. I would make it holistic today. However, I can't make it holistic because this is a lands bill. Otherwise, I'd make it holistic across the whole state payments. We're not going to get in trouble with this, folks, because we're not going to see this until we get in trouble. So once again, this is not a disservice to our constituents because we have the postmark. We're giving them an option to pay electronically. We're giving them an option to pay with silver or gold. So this is not a disservice. This is another option. Thank you.
All right, and we are running a little bit behind, so if we can wrap up our remarks, go ahead, Senator Ide, then we'll go to Representative Slagle.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll try to be brief here. And I will push back. Appreciate the comments from the good representative from Johnson County. Good points. I disagree. I agree with Representative Allemond. I think this is a service to the producers and to the state trust school funds. I mean, any form of payment, Deputy Crowder mentioned it as well. I think we should look at accepting anything. That's a benefit to our trust lands and the beneficiaries in education. So I disagree with that. And the point on, just doing this, I think this is a good start. If we can get this bill passed, we can get the treasurer up to speed as far as how to facilitate this, get the mechanisms, the rules in place. And then we can do a lot broader later on in our legislature. So I think this is a really great start for something to broaden the payments and protect us in the future from what may come. Thank you.
All right, Representative Schlegel.
Yeah, thank you. After hearing Director Crowder's comments and saying that this is the only place that specifically spells out methods of payment, I wonder, I'm tempted to make a motion to amend this bill and just go up on line 16 after filing fee, and from there clear down to line 23 where it's red, and strike all that, because if this is the only place in statute where we list all the different kind of payments that can be made, we just get rid of all those payments. Listed, just like, and then, because it says up there, accompanied by the regular filing fee, and we don't list how that filing fee is paid. Would be amendment I would propose if there's a second.
All right, so we have a motion to amend. And can you give us specifically where you're starting? It's on line 16 after fee. You would be deleting that and certified check all the way to line 23 at the end of payment.
Correct.
Okay, does everybody understand that? Is there a second? Seconded, moved by Schlegel, seconded by Kolb. Discussion on the amendment. Co-chairman Crago.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So there's a part in there that I don't think we can take out completely, and that's the black language on on line 19 and 20, because you still have to clarify that they have to make the full amount of the first year's rental payment. I don't think you have to clarify how they make the payment, but they still have to make the payment. So you could write something to the effect of after filing fee and the first, and payment of the full amount of the first year's rental offered.
Would you consider that a friendly amendment, Representative Schlegel?
Yes, I would. So basically what we do is not strike after, on line 19, we wouldn't strike for the full, and then on 20 amount of the first year's rental offer.
Okay, is everyone clear on that friendly amendment? And then we'll go to Representative Davis online.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I tend to agree with this amendment there. I think we're starting to cloud up a good bill with a lot of other things that could be looked at later in the session.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the amendment and the friendly amendment? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
I think I'm gonna have you raise your hands. If you're for the amendment, raise your hand. All right, opposed, raise your hand. Okay, did you get that? And so the amendment has passed. Okay, is there any further, anything further on this bill?
Madam Chairman,
Go ahead.
that would also delete the I amendment.
Yes, it will.
Okay,
It deletes all forms of payment. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Specification, and this was the only place we specified how people had to pay. So on behalf of our producers, we're opening it wide up to say they can pay as they see fit. We haven't specified how they make payment. All right. That being said, is there any further discussion on this bill? All right, seeing none, we will take a roll call vote.
Madam Chairman, this is a roll call vote for 24 LSO 0070 state land lease amendments as amended. Senator French,
No.
Senator Hicks, excused, Senator Ide,
No.
Senator Kolb,
Yes.
Senator Larson,
Excuse me, Anna is raising her hand. Do we need something from the committee before we continue? Anna, we had already done that and we're just reconsidering it and we brought it back to the table. So I believe that we're procedurally correct on that. All right, go right ahead with the vote, please.
Senator Larson,
No.
Representative Allemand. Representative Allred.
Aye.
Representative Banks.
Aye.
Representative Conrad.
Aye.
Representative Davis.
Aye.
Repeat, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Representative Slagle.
Aye.
Representative Winter.
Aye.
Chairman Eklund.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Crago.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to change my vote to an aye.
Are there any changes?
Okay,
Senator Larson.
all right.
Aye.
Thank you,
Senator
Katie.
Larson, no to aye.
All right, thank you, Katie.
3 ayes in the Senate, 2 no, 1 excused. 9 ayes in the House.
All right, that bill passes as amended. The next topic for our consideration, thank you for being patient with us, is the University of Wyoming College of Agriculture, Life Sciences and Natural Resources update. And once again, we thank you for the wonderful tour. And while you're coming up, I'd like to acknowledge former Speaker of the House, Kermit Brown, who is with us here today. Welcome to the Ag Committee. Would you like to make any remarks while you're here? Thank you. We appreciate that. And we've appreciated your hospitality while we've been here. So thanks for being with us today. And welcome Dean Rasco and your crew. Come on up and give us your wonderful update. We had a great tour of the facilities yesterday and enjoyed our time with you. So take it away.
Well, thank you, co-chairs Steinmetz and Crago, for everything you do for our state and for the members of the committee here. I know it's a huge time commitment and we really appreciate your service to the state. I appreciate having everybody come and tour our facilities yesterday and spend time with us. It was a great experience for us and hope you enjoyed your time. So I'd like to introduce some people here with me today. First of all, I'm Barbara Rasco. I'm Dean of the College of Agriculture, Life Science and Natural Resources. With me at the table here is Kelly Crane, who's our Senior Associate Dean, and also Alex Keene, who is Vice President of, Finance. A lot of titles here. We also have with us Christine Wade, who's our Associate Dean of Academic Programs, Eric Webster, who's our Associate Dean of Extension and Interim Dean of Extension and Dean of our Ag Experiment Stations. Dr. Fox will be speaking with us a little bit later, who's Director and Department Head of our Veterinary Science Program. Interim Veterinary Lab Director Barrett Bangora, Pepper Six, who's our Director of External Relations. And then at the university level, Provost Carmen is joining us today. Mike Smith, who's our Vice President of Governmental Affairs and Community Engagement. And then also Alex Keene. And thank you to Trustee Brown for being with us. So I think that's everybody who's here with the university. So again, our college is very grateful for the support we've received from the legislature for our college program and the instrumental role that Joint Ag has played in securing these assets for our college. Particularly the matching funds have been significant impact for us in supporting many of our agricultural-based production programs. Financial support for the vet lab most recently has been critical to attracting recent hires and also retaining a number of our current faculty. So with our presentation today, Dr. Crane and I are going to address the July 20th letter from committee co-chairs Eklund and Steinmetz that asked for our initial vision and strategies on how the college will increase student enrollment, attract outstanding faculty and staff, and then utilize additional state funding. So I'll talk about enrollment
and the faculty and staff recruitment and retention, and Dr. Kelly Crane will tell how we would utilize additional resources that we might receive from the state. So with regard to increasing enrollment, we would establish and redesign undergraduate and graduate degree programs that capitalize on the University of Wyoming's distinct advantages that we have to meet contemporary workforce needs. Some examples of programs that we would focus on would be ranch management and agricultural leadership degree, expanding our coursework and instructional capacity and agricultural communications, improving the visibility of important family and consumer science programs for professionals in human nutrition and foods, human development and family science, and design, merchandising, and textiles, and also in creating and expanding non-thesis and professional master's degrees programs in nutrition, preclinical sciences, and master's programs in agriculture for working professionals and non-traditional students. These programs meet their current objectives as professionals and also would be important for meeting some statewide workforce development needs. As far as building out and increasing enrollment, we would develop more effective marketing programs for our current exceptional programs. We have plans for deliberate, targeted, and strategic marketing. For academic and extension programming, we would have the goal of reaching new audiences and growing enrollment in these programs. We've recently been able to hire a program coordinator to lead marketing and to develop new and expanded targeted social media presence to reach young people. And we would use funds to support that program. As far as resources, we would focus some additional resources on marketing across Wyoming and regional high schools, including counselors, 4-H, FFA, science fairs, and other student organizations to reach new audiences. We also leverage our formal partnerships with Wyoming Ag in the Classroom to show young people career opportunities in agriculture and natural resource related fields they might not have previously considered. Our science initiative, which is showcased in the building that you saw yesterday, and with colleagues like Mark Lyford, who led that tour, we would use some of the programs there and leverage these programs to attract students who are considering STEM fields, but might not have considered ag and natural resources related fields to be STEM disciplines, and have those students then be exposed to opportunities that we have in ag and natural resources. We also plan to expand recruiting efforts, including virtual campus tours, to address the needs of place-bound students and their parents, and first-generation students and others who might not have considered college as a possibility for them. As far as enhancing student learning experiences, we believe that our college provides unrivaled opportunities and experiential learning compared to our peer institutions, but we need to be able to keep this up. Our goal is to become a premier institution for real-world management-focused undergraduate and graduate education in areas including rangeland, livestock production, agricultural business, wildlife, and agriculture and natural resource-based fields in general. We remain committed to providing educational opportunities to provide people with knowledge of agriculture and natural resource disciplines and careers who will then go on and serve the state and broader community with skill and integrity. We have the opportunity in our college to build upon our scholarship and internship programs that have been very beneficial for our students and our staff through the generosity of individuals, organizations, and businesses. These gifts attract and retain the best and brightest students, and operating support that's associated with this will make these opportunities for our students even better. Our student organization and teams of some of the folks you met yesterday show that our competitive teams and our student organizations are key to recruiting and retaining young people, and very much important factor in these students coming back year after year because they know they have a community of like-minded individuals to work with, attaining both their personal and professional goals. As far as strategies to attract faculty and staff, state investments with the recent raises have been critical and allowing us to attract and retain good faculty. Having the best faculty possible provides impactful learning and research plus dynamic engagement that enhances the student experience and provides opportunities for these young people to develop the skills that they need to be successful professionals. Wyoming, as we all know, provides a very high quality of life, and the University of Wyoming is a great place to work. For new employees, state funding is able to allow us to provide competitive compensation packages compared to our peer institutions. Unfortunately, we do have problems with both compression and inversion for our long-term faculty and staff. We're also facing a problem with lack of critical mass of faculty and staff for a number of our college programs, and we would utilize additional state funding to address some of these staffing challenges. So, Dr. Crane?
Good morning, Madam Co-Chair and committee members. Appreciate the opportunity to visit with you a little bit this morning. So my objective this morning is to talk about how our college might use additional state funding and how we might invest these funds to really expand on our existing programs and enhance our regional prominence. As a College of Ag, I'm going to keep saying College of Ag broadly, but it is the College of Agriculture, Life Sciences, and Natural Resources. And we really embrace that breadth, but I may refer to it as a College of Ag just in the spirit of brevity here. Anyway, I think the bottom line is we want to use, if we have additional state funds, we want to use this to enhance what we are as a college. And I think attain our shared objective of being the absolute best in class. We want to have a College of Ag, Life Sciences, Natural Resource that is as good as we can be. And that means a college that is right for Wyoming. We're not trying to look like anybody else. We really want to take advantages of our distinct competitive advantages we have in Wyoming. And we really want to reflect what I consider the unique needs of our students, the communities we serve, and the industries in Wyoming. And I think that really sets us up to be better than anyone else. And that's, I think, our shared objective here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we might do that. And of course, we're interested to hear your ideas too on how we might do that. But I think that's where we all want to get. First, I think it's important to say that additional state funding will be used to secure and expand really the core missions, what I would consider the core missions and obligations of a land-grant university. And the first and foremost is to ensure that every student in Wyoming has access to a college education. That's really the core of a land grant, that we're accessible. And especially if you read the act, it's about providing a college education and access to a college education for the working class of Wyoming. And we're absolutely committed to that. And I think our partnership with community colleges across the state is one example of our commitment to that. So I think the other things we think about when we think about a land grant mission is to conduct applied research that really helps address issues that are important in Wyoming. And I hope you saw some examples of that yesterday. But again, additional funds help us do that. And then finally, extension education. Again, a core function of the land grant institutions. And I think I'll talk about some ideas we have to expand that we have a presence of the University of Wyoming in every county in Wyoming and on the Wind River Indian Reservation, and that we help communities meet the needs they're facing. So those are the kind of, that's the kind of theme here, that we really want to advance what a land grant university is in Wyoming through education, research, and extension. This is a kind of you saw a good example of some really outstanding facilities yesterday on our tour. And we're appreciative of the investment we got in those facilities. We also showed you some facilities that we think could use some work, but we are appreciative and proud of the facilities that are on the University of Wyoming campus and on our R&E centers. But I think an important point is what makes our college great is our people. It is not bricks and mortar that serves the state of Wyoming. It's the people in our college. And I think we're all proud of the people that work at our college. And they're very committed to serving this state and the students. And so I think it's important to keep our eye on the ball that really what we need to advance our college is we need people. We need to support people in positions, and we need new positions as our college expands. That's just the reality of this, that it's people that makes the difference in our college. We need facilities, and they help, and they help us get people, but it's really about the people that serve the state.
Mr. Crane, could I interrupt you for just a minute?
Absolutely.
And just ask a question before you head into your next part of your presentation? One, what do you perceive the funding gap to be, if there is one? What are the price tags that we might be looking at? And I know several years ago when Lori Nichols was president here, we were looking at becoming a tier 1 ag program. And so, you know, where are we at with that? Are we still pursuing that? That might be another something that you could cover for us. And then also, where are we at in line with the trustees? I know they have a strategic plan as far as building renovations, all of the upgrades happening with the university. Maybe cover that as well. I know that was a big mouthful, but if you could touch on that in your presentation, I'd appreciate it.
Thanks for the question, Madam Co-Chair. I appreciate it. I'll try, and I will certainly rely on my colleagues and certainly Dean Rasco to help with that. I don't know if I can specifically address the funding gaps. What I can address is in many of our undergraduate programs, we are on the edge of functionality and teaching some of those programs. We have faculty members that are teaching to absolute capacity. And when we have a resignation or a retirement or someone goes somewhere, it's a challenge to backfill. Our term is always, we don't have a very deep bench. To use a football analogy, if someone leaves, we have a hard time. So I think in almost every one of our academic programs, we could use additional teaching faculty to ensure that both we have the breadth of expertise that's needed to teach these programs, as well as that we allow our faculty members to have research programs and extension programs and still deliver our undergraduate education. So I might let Alex Keene talk about the financial requirements of that a little later if we don't get it addressed. As far as the tier 1, I think none of us have let go of that aspiration. We absolutely want to be the best we can be. We recognize that takes some investment, and I might get to that in a minute.
Another area that Kelly's going to be talking about a little bit later here is our ability to serve the state. So we did lose capacity and extension, and we do want to bring that back. So we're very grateful to Provost Carmen in particular for allowing us to fill extension positions outside of something we refer to as a central position management system. And so that has helped us regain our capacity and extension across the state, but we still have a way to go. One of our goals would be to have an extension educator in each one of our disciplinary areas within the college. And so we could provide you with a budget as to what that might look like. But I think if we could do that, that would allow all of our programs, including the new ones in zoology, physiology, botany, and our just general STEM education programs, to be out in the community serving our students and helping our kids realize what they could do with their lives professionally that they might not have thought of before.
Thank you. Go on ahead. I didn't mean to throw you a curveball, but I'm hoping you'll tell us what parts of this might be in your budget request to appropriations as well. And you can phone a friend if you need to, when you get to that part of your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. So we kind of talked about the teaching aspect. I'm going to hit teaching, research and extension, and what we would do with additional funds. On the teaching side, I think additional funding, if we get it, would really be used to both retain, which is important, and recruit new faculty members. And again, to provide some depth in our existing program, but maybe more importantly, as we launch new programs, which we all know we need to do, the workforce demands are different. And we anticipate standing up new programs in agriculture, in life sciences, in botany, in zoology and physiology, and new programs require new people, but new programs are required to meet, again, a changing demand of the workforce out there. And we fully anticipate having to do that. So that's the kind of things we look at as far as long-term investment in our college. Alex may hit me with his laptop here, but the round numbers we use, and please, I'm not the finance guy. It takes about $150,000 of recurring funds for every faculty member. That's at the assistant professor level. That includes fringe. Am I close, Alex? Those are the numbers we use. Extension educators and lecturers might be closer to $100,000 per, including salary and fringe and those kind of things. Those are big, broad numbers, but that's what it takes to get people. That doesn't include startup costs and operational costs and all those other things that Alex can talk about. But that's really about what it costs to be competitive in the market. So that's kind of the teaching, really expanding new programs and supporting our existing programs to meet the needs of Wyoming students and the students from across the country that we attract in our college. I'll talk a little bit about research. This will get a little more specific. One of the mandates, again, of our land grant responsibilities is to conduct applied research which meets the needs of Wyoming, our industries, our communities, individuals in the state. So additional state funds, we would love to hire 4 new positions at our research and extension centers. So that's Lingle, Sheridan, Powell, Laramie. And if we had more money, we might hire more. But these are the people who really do, and this is restoring a lot of our legacy of applied research. They really are going to focus on relevant issues in the broad ag and natural resource world. These are people that study things like soil fertility, irrigation water management, rangeland management, invasive species and weed management, and do research which is relevant to Wyoming producers and our agency partners out there. So we would like to hire additional people at these R&E centers. And then part of our research obligation is, again, our research and extension centers are very important to us. And the one we showed you yesterday, I hope exhibited that. But we have facility needs at that and maintenance needs. Our obligation is to make sure our research is relevant to Wyoming producers. And when we're doing crop research and livestock research, many of our facilities are frankly not up to date. And so it's difficult to maintain credibility with an ag producer when we don't have the equipment that they have, or the companies we serve. So it requires some investment to ensure that our research is relevant and it actually mimics what the people we're serving do. So that's not always the case, but these centers take investment. And I'll kind of leave it at that on the research side. On the extension side, additional state funding. First, we're going to ensure with these dollars and that we have a presence in every county and on the Wind River Indian Reservation of Extension. A presence to me means 2 people. Our interim director of extension may say it means 3 people, but I think a minimum present means we have a 4-H youth development educator in every county, which we have today, except there's probably some opening somewhere in the state, but we have funding to do that. To me, we need an area educator or another educator in every county. And that's someone that's working in either ag and natural resources or in community vitality and health. We need those positions in every county. And the university has been actually really generous in ensuring we have funding for that. But additional state funding would ensure in places that we have greater need that we could double up those extension folks out in the counties. They really have profoundly positive impacts on our youth, as well as on supporting the industries of Wyoming. So that's on the extension side. The other thing that we would like to do with additional funds is our 4-H youth development educators, our UW employees, they're in every county in Wyoming. Their salary is shared with Wyoming counties. We really value that partnership. It is very important to us. So our salary is shared on those 4-H youth development positions, but because of that shared salary, those positions do not have a career track. So they're hired at the assistant level, and there is no mechanism for them to be promoted to the associate or the senior level and have the associated pay increases. And I frankly think it hurts us in terms of retaining these educators that are so important to 4-H programs. So we would like to make an additional investment to create a career track for 4-H educators that allows them to be promoted, to get a salary bump after 3 or 4 years and another one after another 4 or 5. I think that'll help us retain that. All this has to be done in cooperation with our county partners, because if we give a raise, they share in the raise. And that partnership is extremely valuable to us. So, but I think we would use additional money to ensure we have that career track for 4-H educators. And then finally, like Dean Rasco mentioned, we want to ensure that we have an extension specialist, meaning someone that's embedded in our academic programs in our college, but serves the state and serves our extension educators out in the state. We want to ensure we have an extension faculty specialist in every department. And so we're looking at new specialist positions in some of our new departments to serve the state in things like wildlife management, mental health, STEM education in the schools. We certainly have capacity within our academic department, but we don't have any funding to support them to work out in the state in those areas, and we'd love to do that. So those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about with additional funds. And we're very grateful for your support. Pleased that we can even have this discussion. And I think we all share the ambition that we want to be the absolute best in class, our college. And we realize that attaining this objective is going to take a significant investment of state funds, for which we know there's no shortage of demands, and there is a shortage of funds. But we want you to be assured that we fully accept the accountability that comes with that investment. And that's the accountability to you and the accountability to the communities we serve. We know it's a big ask. We know investing more money in our college is a big ask, but we accept the accountability that comes with. And we're eager to work with you to ensure that we have a College of Ag, Natural Resource, and Life Sciences that we're all proud of. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Alex up next, or what did you have planned for us? Alex, do you happen to have what your budget request might be, or just an idea of that for the committee, or is that something you might email to us at a later date?
Madam Chair, regarding budget requests at the university, we go through a process with our board of trustees that establish a list of priorities across the entire institution. And embedded within that are a number of requests that would directly impact the College of Agriculture. First and foremost, compensation increases, as was noted, the last 2 rounds of compensation increases have been tremendous and really beneficial to the institution. As noted, there continues to be a gap between market for tier 1 R1 caliber professors, faculty at the institution, and what we're able to pay. The last round of compensation increases here at the institution, what we were able to do was use some of that money to address those compression issues that we have at the institution. However, we're only able to go so far with the dollars that are allocated each go round. So that continues to be a challenge. As a state agency, we certainly do work with the governor's office to understand if there are enterprise or requests that are going to impact all state agencies. And so compensation has been one of those items that the governor sort of takes the lead on. I don't think we could emphasize strongly enough the importance of having an ongoing compensation policy and a program that works at a university, which is very consistent at other institutions, peers, and those that we compete against. And so having that consistency to a compensation plan is critically important. The other thing that I would note that is an impact to all state agencies, but can be somewhat unique in higher education is the impacts of inflation. It varies by college, the impacts of inflation and the cost of doing business. For the College of Agriculture, their impacts are different than other colleges at the university. Last year, we were able to secure some funding for inflationary impacts for parts of the college. Inflation continues to consume a lot of dollars at this institution. And so if you look sort of holistically into your question of what is the funding gap, I hesitate to say a number right here today, but that is certainly something that we could come back with a more specific number or plan. I can note a few things though, that through budget cuts from the state block grant that impact and how those are allocated out to each of the colleges, the last go round for the College of Ag was about a $2.3 million budget reduction out of their operating budget. Just as a point of reference, the state block grant that comes to the university funds about 53 to 55% of everything that goes on here at the institution. But I caveat that with a lot of those research dollars, externally sponsored research dollars, have to be spent for specific things. And our board of trustees don't have broad discretion over how those dollars get allocated. So we're really looking at tuition and to some extent some fee revenue, and then the state aid block grant that really are in the pool of funds that the trustees really have authority. They're unrestricted dollars that can be allocated out between colleges or between programs. And so any funding, any additional funding is certainly important and can be put to good use. But to come back with a number on the funding gap, I think there are a couple of different ways we could look at that if it makes sense. One is on the position side. What is the difference in position count and what the gap is on compensation for specific positions there. Part of it is in operations, what it costs to run the college on a daily basis, those operating costs, and then the facilities piece. And I would say that those three numbers or something that we could come back and give an estimate on what that funding gap is from ideal state to where we are right now.
All right. I'm going to just go to the committee and see if there's any questions. Go ahead, Representative Conrad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick observation. And first off, thanks to the college yesterday for an incredibly insightful and meaningful tour. It was extremely well done. It's without question the staff is impeccable. It's a labor of love for sure. My concern is, and I'll air this with good intentions, as a child of the 60s, it was good to reminisce yesterday. What are we going to do? We've talked a lot about specifically increasing staff, et cetera, so forth and so on. My overall concern is specifically as we talk about recruitment, not only of faculty, but also children or students in this case, there's an apparent gap. And it's a vast gap as it relates to the structure. It's an exercise from my perspective of urban decay. The center of the agriculture area is decaying from a brick and mortar perspective, while the outside grows and flourishes, et cetera. I need to understand personally and specifically and politically, what are we going to do? What is the request specifically to upgrade those facilities? And I tell you, it's unbelievable the work that's being done. The depreciation is obviously, I'm sure, completed with regards to those buildings, but it was a little discouraging. And I say that positively because the students were there because they want to be there. The instructors are there because they want to be. But before we talk about an enhancement or more importantly, a great amount of money for students and or faculty, what are we going to do infrastructurally in the brick and mortar side to continue to increase and remain prominent in this area, specifically as our goal is tier 1. So thank you. And again, for the tour yesterday and the remarkable people that were there.
Thank you, Representative. Who would like to take that one? If any, or if you need to phone a friend from the audience.
Well, it's
it is something that we're very concerned about. In 2021, the college put together a plan just to deal with deferred maintenance. I know these figures are out of date. You know that thanks to the legislature, we're able to get some funds to deal with some specific deferred maintenance issues that we have on the campus. But in that report that I think you probably saw, we were looking at something on the order between campus and our 4 R&E centers, something on the order of $100 million in deferred maintenance. So and that includes, you know, the vet labs, some issues we have out there, our R&E centers and main campus. That would not include costs associated with maybe building out or, you know, renovating, let's say the ag building, or renovating facilities or adding more capacity at Laramie or any of our other sites, or also protecting our, particularly our Laramie operations, our R&E center there, from urban encroachment. So we did have some plans we proposed to, you know, to deal with it, to keep from having urban development, particularly across the street from our Laramie R&E center. Obviously, the costs are a little hard to ascertain, but if we're looking at $100 million in deferred maintenance, you can guess that the requirements to actually improve facilities are going to be substantial. I don't know how, and that's not good news, but the fact that you're concerned about our facilities is something that really is heartening to us, that we may be able to make some progress in that area. So Alec, anybody else? Kelly?
Thank you, Dean Rasco. Go ahead, Kelly.
Madam Co-Chair, Representative Conrad, thanks for that. I think we all recognize the limitations that our facility creates in terms of recruiting students and faculty, especially our main building on campus. And I guess we're eager to engage in that conversation and that planning. We've just been trying to ensure we have strong programs in the meantime. And when it comes our turn to talk about facilities, if that turn comes around, we are eager to join that and to talk about. And we've done some kind of preliminary planning and thought exercises about what a facility like that would look like. Again, we're very proud of the legacy that building comes with, and our position on campus is really important. It's central to the university, and we love that. But absolutely, when our turn comes around for new facilities, we think it will help advance our programs, all of our programs. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to jump in here and just ask one question, because it was part of my question to you before. Is there anyone that knows or can answer on the comprehensive plan that the trustees put forward? I believe they have a roadmap of what they're doing as far as upgrades, and we've done the law college, and we've done the stadium, and we've done the swimming pool and all of that. Is the ag college somewhere on that list as we go down the list, or is there anyone that could answer that? And maybe that's information we could get from you in the future via email to the committee. I would sure appreciate that.
Madam Chair, if I might, so we do have a university campus master plan, and we'd be happy to provide that to the committee for your review. As you've noted, a number of the buildings and the construction that's going on were prioritized in the campus master plan. And so as we're working through that master plan, I think it would be beneficial to the committee to see that long range full campus master plan.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's what the words I was searching for. Is there any further questions, Senator Kolb?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just could you, I guess, tell me about the trend of the amount of student enrollment in your program throughout, say, the last 10 years? Just a rough idea of where we're at 10 years ago and where we're at now, percentage change.
Go ahead, Dean Rasco.
Yeah, Senator Kolb, Madam Chair. Yes, we do have You do have those numbers. I've got some paper here. I'm sorting through here to try to get you the best numbers. So, we're currently, this fall, we're at about 1,260 students. That includes our new programs. Our enrollment over the last couple of years has been pretty flat. In 2018, that was our largest year. So with the total programs, that number was 1,588. So we are down from 2018, but over the last couple of years, we're down maybe about 100 students, and this year's numbers are this report came out. I think this was provided to you in June, is about 1,260. So one of the things I think that we can do, we need to do a better job of, is marketing our current programs. People sometimes can't find our programs, and so that's a major focus that we have. We think that we can keep these numbers at a consistent level, and we'd like to be able to grow them as well. Even though, as far as high school graduates, about 2025, we're falling off at demographic cliffs. But because we've got some things here at the University of Wyoming that other people don't have, we have some opportunities to, to focus on growing enrollment.
Follow up, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, anyone in the group can answer this. Do you think putting a pool into your facility there and then in the ag group would enhance your chances of getting an improved area?
Excuse me, Senator Kolb, do you mean a pool of money or like a swimming pool?
A pool of water,
A pool
the
of
one
water.
that recently got approved, and you folks are over there with a building that is falling apart. They've deprived you of maintenance. For some unknown reason. I see the rest of the campus doing very well overall. You folks are over there starving with your building. Your building is in terrible shape. And it is quite obvious that seems like the university doesn't care much about you when it comes to what they've given to you to make your facilities at least keep up with modern needs. And I'm deeply concerned that the way the funding works, I don't know how it's going to get directly to you anyway. And it's abysmal. It's an abysmal situation that, frankly, it's shameful that we have a facility like yours that is left to rot. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why you haven't gotten any funding to at least keep up with some modern standards. Maybe you could help me. And maybe it's a political question you don't want to answer, but I'd like to know why. Why are you not taking care of it all? I mean, from what my observations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dean Rasko, go ahead.
Our new administration with President Seidel and Provost Carmen, we have been getting, some support, but we're starting so far behind that it's going to take a long time to catch up.
Thank you for that. Are there any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, we have a new face at the table. It's up to you, Dean Rasko. You're in charge of your crew there. So let us know what you plan to do next.
Well, Madam Chair, we were asked to provide an update with status of the vet lab. And so Jonathan Fox here is our department head for vet sciences, and he does have an update for the committee.
Madam Chair and committee members, thanks for this opportunity to provide an update on the Wyoming State Vet Lab and the University of Wyoming Biocontainment Facility. The recent legislative support has been instrumental in helping us to recruit and retain faculty. Since this support was implemented, we have recruited 2 pathologists and a veterinary epidemiologist. I'd also like to acknowledge the support of Provost Carmen. One of the challenges we've had over the years is obtaining positions back when diagnostic faculty have left. And recently he approved an automatic returning of these positions so we can maintain the capacity and stability of the Wyoming State Veterinary Laboratory. We do actually still have 5 open diagnostic positions, including 2 pathologists and a director position. We are being as proactive as possible. We're utilizing a third-party search company that's giving us, I believe, significant traction, and we're receiving more applications for these positions. So thanks to these significant steps, I do believe we're making headway in filling these positions. The market is still very competitive and there are challenges, but we are making progress. A little bit about the Wyoming State Veterinary Laboratory. Currently, we're sitting at somewhere over 20,000 accessions for this calendar year, which is pretty much the same as last year, which was a record high. So I think that's fairly good. And despite some of the staffing challenges we've had, we have maintained our turnaround time in our pathology service and in our infectious disease testing, including brucellosis testing. A little bit about the University of Wyoming Biocontainment Facility. This facility has 2 purposes. There is a containment necropsy laboratory, which is for the veterinary laboratory. And then there is a research component there. The facility was first used for COVID testing during the pandemic. Since then, the BSL-3 necropsy facility has been used for suspect select agents. So these are highly infectious agents that are regulated by the federal government, including some suspect cases of brucellosis and plague. The research labs have been used for a project centered on brucellosis, and we're actually aiming to sequence a large number of the Brucella bacterial isolates that we've accumulated over many years. We do recognize the need to increase the ongoing research in the UWBF, and we have addressed this. Thanks again to support from the provost. We did have a Wyoming Excellence Chair position returned to us that we have filled with a Brucella researcher who specializes in vaccine development, and he's going to be coming in March and will be an additional use of the facility. So in summary, while we do have some challenges, I believe we're making significant progress in addressing them. And we are moving forwards with the current search processes this fall and spring. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the update of the state veterinary lab? All right, thank you very much. I thank you for your great update. Are there any further questions from the committee for the university? All right, go ahead. Co-Chairman Craigo.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just one quick question for any of you, and it really just comes down to, I mean, we've heard comments about there are additional needs over there. Are there any specific ideas? I mean, talking in generalities, I don't know if that helps us. And so are there any specific ideas about how we can help you, how we can help Old Main help you? Because just putting more money into the block grant, I don't think that's going to solve the problem, at least not in my opinion. And so do you have any ideas on what we possibly could do to help us reach some of these goals that we're all talking about, that I think a lot of us up here agree are valid and laudable? So any specific ideas you could help us with?
Enhancing the, sorry, Madam Co-Chair, Representative Craigo, I think enhancements to the block grant, if you took that idea off the table for me, that is certainly one of the ways in that we build faculty numbers. That's absolutely how we get operational money that that moves these objectives forward. I think we were really encouraged by the endowment bill that was in the last session of the legislature. Again, we see that as a long-term investment in our college and the core functions of the land-grant university that would return funds in perpetuity to help move our vision ahead. So I think that was a really encouraging bill to us, and allowed the state to continually invest in a fund that would provide some again recurring funds to support these aspirations. Thank you.
Go ahead, follow up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So let me back up a little bit, Dr. Crane. I'm not saying that we can't enhance the block grant either. That just doesn't necessarily get to the individualized goals that I'm looking at, right? I mean, so that's going to be university wide typically, which is okay. I think the College of Ag is nothing without the university. They're a team, and we have to help all of the parts of that team. My question was really, and I think you answered it, was just more focused on, are there any individual ideas that we can do to specifically move in the direction of the College of Ag? Because after yesterday, I think a lot of us, let me back up. Thank you very much for the tour. I haven't said that publicly, but it was really awesome tour. We got to see a lot of good people, as Representative Conrad pointed out, and the chairwoman did as well. You're doing a lot of really good things with what you have, but I think we can give you more tools to even improve that dramatically long-term. And so that was really where I was heading with my question, is not, we can address some of the staffing issues through the block grant, but outside of that, what could we do?
Go ahead.
Madam
Mr.
Co-Chair,
Crane.
Representative Crago, I should also say that the match dollars that the legislature has provided that have been targeted to ranch and range management and specific programs within our college has absolutely helped us. And we've done our job on those. We've raised the private funds. I think our report says we're probably total around almost $6 million in private funding that we've raised to match the $6 million investment that you all made in our college. And we genuinely appreciate that gesture and those funds also. So I think those certainly help. And don't take this wrong, but the problem is private endowments and endowed funds. It takes a lot of them because the way they're structured to return enough money to really build programs and hire faculty. That does not mean that we're not very appreciative of those match dollars, because we absolutely are, but it's really hard to build comprehensive academic and engagement programs with those kinds of funds. But that doesn't mean they don't serve us well, because they absolutely have. And we're very appreciative of that. So I think that's another mechanism that we certainly appreciate.
All right, thank you. Is there any further questions? All right, I think you're off the hot seat. We look forward to continuing to work with you and seeing some of those budgetary items we've requested. And we'll continue the conversation because we want to continue to advance agriculture at the University of Wyoming. Thank you very much. And for all of your hospitality, again, we thank you.
Thank you.
And especially Pepper Joe, she did a wonderful job organizing our tour. I know all of you helped, but she kept us herded on the bus, and we will forever appreciate you not leaving us behind. So with that, I think we will take a 5-minute break. We don't have time for long because we're kind of behind schedule. So take 5 minutes and we'll be back. Oh, first we'll take public comment. Is there any public comment on the University of Wyoming? And then we'll go to our break. Any public comment? Anything online? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We'll take a 5-minute break and come back for the wonderful world of meat processing. All right, if we can get the committee back to their desks and get a quorum, we'll proceed on with our meeting. We're at meat processing, hides and carcasses, and we'll have Anna come forward. And first we'll have our update from the livestock board, and then we'll consider that bill. So that will be the next bill up. Welcome, Director True. Thank you for joining us in Laramie. And go ahead and visit with us today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Committee. I don't know, Chairman Eklund, good to see you, Chairman, on Zoom anyway. So quickly, a couple update things I want to touch base on from the last Joint Ag meeting. The first is a big thank you to the Joint Ag Committee for your letter to appropriations. Highly appreciated. Want to give you a quick heads up on my senior investigator that went to Tulare, California to the Rural Crime School, has come back, studied their task force model, the way those folks train to interact with their agencies on those similar crimes or crimes at the same location, maybe not livestock, but something else. He's been in several discussions with sheriffs. I think there's some interest in expanding our MOU program, and this letter you've sent to JAC will allow us to walk down that trail and maybe find something that works a little better. They also spent some time at the oil and gas security meeting in the last few days in Douglas and have worked on some real good liaisons with those folks. They're having things stolen on the same place your constituents are. So it's I think we're going to have some avenues to be able to do that. And again, I'd like to thank you for that letter to appropriations. As kind of a throwaway thing I put on you on the last committee, I certainly appreciate your actions on that. Another point of update would be we were quizzed about our brucellosis protocol, notification protocol at your June meeting based on House Bill 180 that passed in the last session. We did just have a meeting last week that all three veterinarians and I went to Pinedale, met with the Sublette County producers Tuesday evening, I believe, had a real good meeting. Dr. Hazel and her staff have, have drafted a protocol. That's a draft protocol that they will present to our board on November 16th. And we'll work through that, and we should have something on that protocol of notification that's wide enough to handle the variabilities of testing, yet narrow enough to let everybody know what's coming or what the process will be in the event of a non-negative test. So those are really my updates at this point. Madam Chair, I think unless you have or the committee has questions for anything else the agency is doing right now.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Would you like to comment now on the meat processing bill, or would you like to come up after LSO staff presents the bill to the committee?
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to go after LSO.
All right, thank you very much, Director. So we'll have Anna come up and present this bill for us. Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome. Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. This bill draft is entitled 24 LSO 127 Meat Processing Plants, Hides and Carcasses. On the top of page 2, Wyoming Statute 11-23-102 gets a new subsection C that states that if a hide is sold to a hide buyer, the bill of sale shall accompany the hide and shall be available for inspection for not less than 2 years from the date of the sale of the hide. Wyoming Statute 11-23-105, that's just a conforming amendment. And then the amendment to 11-23-203 requires a hide buyer to keep a true record of all hides and pelts purchased by him for not less than 2 years from the date of purchase. Section 2 repeals Wyoming Statute 11-23-101 and 11-23-104, the wording of which I've laid out in a staff comment on page 3. And then section 3 provides for an effective date. And I can stand for any questions.
All right, questions, committee? Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. I do have one question, and I guess I would pose it to Director True as well. Is there any reason the act couldn't be effective immediately upon passage?
Not as far as I know, but maybe Director True has a different opinion on that, but I could make it immediate easily.
All right, thank you very much. Director will call you back up. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, a question, comment, maybe a comment first and then a question, a reminder that I did address the committee in June that we feel that illegal slaughter is one of 4 modes of livestock theft, cattle theft. Just an FYI for you to understand, we still feel that way. I do would reiterate our point that we understand where you're coming from, that this is not a statute, or these old statutes are not enforceable on our end and not able to be complied with by the folks in the business. So we understand that. My question would be, is it your intent? I read this that the bill's intent then is to do away with all hide inspection unless it's going out of state, unless those hides cross the state line.
Yes, Director, yes, that is the intent. The intent of the bill is the pre-slaughter inspection would be the last inspection unless there's a bill of sale required going to the hide buyer. And so, yes, that is the intent, to deregulate that and have that pre-slaughter inspection be the last inspection you would have to do on that hide. And then the bill of sale would go to the hide buyer and that process would continue there.
Okay, Madam Chair, if I might, with the language in the bill and in current statute, my curiosity would be in the resurgence of a hide market. And if there was a development of a tannery or something, or some ability to dispose of those hides within the state, we wouldn't be inspecting them. We'll only inspect them if they cross the state line, is the way this reads. Okay. So Madam Chair, having said all of that, and to reiterate a question that was given in the June meeting, this isn't not a revenue project for us. We get $1.85 if there's 1,000 hides on 2 semis, so that doesn't matter. We feel that we were a little uncomfortable with the removal of private slaughter statute, but we feel that we can address any of those and investigate any of those under just the terms of larceny, if we feel that that is the case. So, Madam Chairman, we have no problem implementing or dealing with the implementation of this bill.
All right, thank you, Director. Any questions for the Director? Questions? Seeing none. Oh, one down there, Senator Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Do you have a comment on if it was effective immediately?
Madam Chair, Senator Larson, effective immediately upon passage is fine with us.
All right, thank you, Director. All right, seeing no discussion, is there a motion on the bill? Oh, public comment first, then we'll go to the bill. Is there any public comment on the bill? Public comment? Seeing none, I would, Co-Chairman Crago moves the bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kolb. Is there any discussion on the bill? Discussion, seeing none, is there any amending to the bill? Co-Chairman Crago.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to amend the effective date to effective immediately upon passage, the standard language.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Larson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, that bill has passed and the committee will sponsor it. Oh, that was just the amendment. I'm sorry, and we're on to the bill. And so is there any discussion on the bill? Question being called. All those in favor of the bill, please say aye. Roll call vote. I am just off today. I apologize. Roll call vote. The first reconsideration threw me off. Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, this is roll call vote for 24 LSO 0127 meat processing plants, hides and carcasses as amended. Senator French,
Aye.
Senator Hicks excused, Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator Cole,
Aye.
Senator Larson,
Aye.
Representative Allemand,
Aye.
Representative Allred.
Aye.
Representative Banks,
Aye.
Representative Conrad,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Representative Slagle,
Aye.
Representative Winter,
Aye.
Chairman Eklund,
Aye.
Co-Chairman Steinmetz,
Aye.
Co-Chairman Crago,
Aye.
14 aye, 1 excused.
All right, and that bill passes. The next topic for our consideration is meat processing burial pits, and we'll have Suzanne Ingalls from the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality join us to give us a report, and thank you for your work on this important topic to our processors. Welcome to the Ag Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Suzanne Ingalls, and I am the Administrator for the Solid and Hazardous Waste Division at Wyoming DEQ. I'm here this morning to give you an update on our work since the last committee meeting just in September. The agency has had multiple conversations, good conversations, I'd like to point out, with LSO, EPA, and Senator Steinmetz on this topic of dead animal disposal areas at meat processors. The agency has determined that we are able to move forward with regulation that would allow for on-site disposal without needing legislation. And this path forward was also confirmed with the Attorney General's office. DEQ is moving forward with this rulemaking effort while retaining the current options for managing this type of waste stream, which includes composting and taking this waste to the local landfill or the transfer station. This will expand the options available to meat processors on how they choose to manage their waste. So DEQ is working on regulation by evaluating location standards that other states have and evaluating if these setback distances make sense for Wyoming. Our next step in the process is to initiate rule development with impacted parties, specifically the Meat Processors Association, and the Department of Ag. We'll after this initial engagement, we'll follow our rulemaking procedures, and I can outline that for you. So after we have a draft rule, we'll share that draft rule and our statement of principal reasons, and that document will outline where and if we are more stringent than federal regulations with the Attorney General's office. They'll be able to review and give us feedback. We'll then take the rule package to the Water and Waste Advisory Board, and prior to that public meeting, there is a public comment period and opportunity for public engagement. After we have that public meeting, the agency has to complete 3 steps in consecutive order, and they are to provide our rule package to the AG office, the Attorney General's office, for them to evaluate our statutory authority to move forward. After that, we share the rule package with the governor's office, who gives the agency permission to proceed with rulemaking. And then we file a notice of intent with the Secretary of State, who then notifies LSO, the AG's office, and the governor's office of our moving forward with the rule. So it's very transparent. We coordinate with all the agencies to make sure everyone is aware that we're moving forward and of our draft rule. After we do the notice of intent of our rulemaking, we go to another public comment period prior to the Environmental Quality Council public hearing, where we share our draft rule. And this is where the agency shares our draft rule with the EQC, and they promulgate the rule. Once we have that public meeting, we then file the certification from the EQC with the Secretary of State's office, who then notifies the LSO, who then shares that important step with the Management Council, the AG's office, and the governor's office again. So with all of these meetings and steps and notification along the way, we're hoping to be in front of the EQC within 6 months and then have a final rule within a year, just based on timing of meetings and completing the rulemaking process. And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, one other item that I would like to say is that I'm happy to provide updates to this committee on our progress and what types of public comment or input we are receiving.
Senator Cole.
Thank
you.
you, Madam Chairman. If you move forward with this change, the rule change, and you find that there's a situation, say from this point forward, that comes up that's in violation of what your current rules are before they get changed, are you going to pursue prosecution of those situations that are not going to be conforming currently because the rules haven't changed? Or are you going to, I guess, what will be your policy during this interim period when we're moving forward with the change and you find someone who's not compliant? How will you handle that?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Senator, I think we're at the start of the rulemaking process where we haven't identified appropriate setback locations. I think if we received a complaint, we would respond to the complaint, work with that site-specific issue and go from there. I don't feel comfortable saying what exactly we would do because if there's a threat to public health and the environment, the agency needs to respond appropriately. And not knowing what we might encounter, it's hard to say how would we respond.
Follow up?
Yeah, follow up. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's not what I meant. What I meant is if you move forward, you get to a point in time, say, where you have the rule changes that you wish to propose. Then you find there's a complaint on an existing facility that in fact wouldn't exist, as a violation with their proposed rule changes. So now you've got a situation of you're proposing a rule change that they will conform to your rules after you get them changed, but you have a situation that came up that currently doesn't conform with those changes. What are you going to do in that interim period? That was my question. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you for that clarification. I think the agency has enforcement discretion, and I think that's something that we would enact.
All right. Okay, so just to be clear, you're telling us that we don't need a bill, that you're going to go ahead and look at South Dakota and the information provided there and move forward with rulemaking with a system kind of like what they've implemented, but Wyoming specific. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions on that? So we have one less bill to consider this session, and we thank you for that. So, all right. Seeing no further questions, we will let you go and we'll take public comment on this issue. Is there any public comment in the room? Thank you for being with us today and making the trip over. All right. Is there any public comment online? All right. Seeing none, that completes that project. And we are on to the Wyoming State Fair update. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so I don't know if we have Senator Boner and our director on. Would they happen to be with us yet? They are. Okay, that's wonderful. And since we're ahead of schedule, I know Senator Boner has a hard stop that we need to get him to. So with that being said, I would love to hear from Senator Boner first so that we can get him off to his next meeting. And then we'll go to the director. if that's all right with both of them. Welcome, Senator. Chairman Boner.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. Appreciate the consideration here, the ability to participate remotely. Life of a citizen legislator here. So, if that's okay with you, I'll just go ahead and present what I'm hoping to present to the committee, and you'll hear a good update about the fair here in a little bit. But so overall, and looking at some folks who are part of this process to institute the State Fair Board over 5 years ago now. As Chairman Steinman said, you're an integral part of that discussion. I appreciate all the input. But if you go back to the original bill, it's actually, State Fair Board number 2. There's the original bill that we had to basically start over from that bill because we had this ongoing discussion as to what the Department of Agriculture was going to be responsible for and what the State Fair Board was going to be responsible for. And so we landed on giving quite a bit of responsibility to the new State Fair Board while still retaining, I think, to provide some stability in the transition, giving the Department of Agriculture still quite a bit of responsibility as well, in particular when it comes to contracting, when it comes to doing the financial side of the operation. And so as the board has really gained its footing, and you'll hear the update from the director here. But we've seen year-over-year increases in attendance and revenue. You'll hear about some of their successes based off the last fair, and even as we look forward to raising funds for the endowment, for example. But we've had, I think, a highly successful board that certainly isn't perfect, but is certainly seen tremendous improvement in the State Fair. So as we continue to consider what the best policy is to support the State Fair, I offer you the bill that you have as a committee that would do a few things and several options here. But it would, I think the most important considerations, in my opinion, are giving the board the ability to contract directly instead of going through the Department of Agriculture for contracts, as well as give them the responsibility and the authority to handle the budget. So the status quo right now is that the Department of Agriculture does all the contracts. This has always been cumbersome, given that the Department of Agriculture has to treat all of its divisions the same, and that sometimes it takes over a month to get a contract through, which may or may not work. Say if you have a judge that needs to be replaced 2 weeks before the fair, that process may not be adequate to get that contract signed in time. The same thing goes for the budget. The feedback the board gets as far as budget goes is very similar, as my understanding, to what you will see in their budget requests. It's not a very detailed, accounting of all the expenses, all of the revenue to the fair. And so if we have the opportunity for the State Fair Board to take over the financial side of it, you'll have a more detailed ability. The board will have the more detailed ability to make decisions based off of what's been successful from a revenue and expenditure standpoint. So that's what the bill does. Primarily, that's what I'm most interested in. There's also other things in there, such as right now that it's statutorily required that the director of the Department of Agriculture be the chairman of the State Fair subcommittee that focuses on putting on the fair itself. I'm also, I'm not as concerned about that one, but that it may be advisable to leave that up to the board to decide who's going to be responsible for that subcommittee. So that's the bill, Madam Chairman. That's the reason behind it, best as I can tell, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Chairman Boner. Are there any questions for the good chairman? Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senator Boner, what does the Fair Board think of this? Are they in agreement unanimously, or what's their position on the change of the authority? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senator Kolb. This idea came to me from board members. I cannot represent every last one of their positions, but yeah, certainly I think they're ready to handle the responsibility associated with this. And certainly, the idea came from the board. And so they can certainly speak for themselves, but that's just where this idea came from.
All right, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you for joining us today, and you're welcome to stick around if we have any other questions, or if you need to go, we sure understand that as well.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
so, all
And
right,
just, Madam Chair, one more thing I forgot to say. One thing you may consider is the effective date. May be advisable if you move forward to have that be September 1st, so you get the fair done and over with before you make this change. You don't want to do that and lead up to the fair necessarily. So, one thought I'd like to share. So.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. So September 1st for our consideration. All right, thank you. And next we will go to Director Kronkel, or actually General Manager. Thanks for being with us today and sharing your vacation, a little bit of it with us.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I am joining you remotely today because I am out of the country. I do have a backup computer set up and ready to go, so if we have any connectivity challenges, I'll just pop off for a minute. But I am Courtney Conkle. I'm the General Manager of the Wyoming State Fair, and I am so excited to give you some exciting updates on behalf of the State Fair Board and the State Fair today. We have been hard at work. It's been a busy year for the State Fair Board and for the State Fair staff. One of the very exciting things that we're just coming off the tail of is this last Saturday, the 28th, we had a kickoff endowment fundraiser. As some of you may be aware, we have been tasked to do a $500,000 one-to-one matching funds campaign. The caveat is we have to reach that full $500,000 to be able to access the matching funds. So we have been hard at work on that. And truly, it's just the beginning. We don't want to stop at $500,000. We want to continuously grow the endowment fund. It was written into legislation back in 2018. Right now, we've got about $3.8 million in that account. And this last weekend with our kickoff fundraiser, we were able to raise $115,000. So we know that there's people that want to continue to contribute to the endowment. They believe in the future of the State Fair. And I think we all recognize the importance of agriculture, education, youth, and Western lifestyle, and the impacts that those values can have on our state. We have also been tasked this season with a 1-to-5 matching funds campaign. The way that that was brought by Lloyd Larson this last season was that if we were able to raise $100,000, that money could be matched with $500,000 specifically for near-term master plan projects. Early in the season, we identified the 4 projects that we would be able to complete in the event that we would be able to meet that 1-to-5 matching funds campaign. And I'm pleased to report to you that the Converse County Commissioners actually were able to contribute the full $100,000. So as I speak, we've got access to the full $600,000, and Construction Authority is beginning the RFP process so that way we can get those 4 projects underway prior to the 2024 State Fair. Those projects are grounds landscaping, so general improvements. Those will cover irrigation, some smartscaping. We will also be working on our north-south connector, making it more ADA compliant. We will be doing gate and entry enhancements to sort of elevate that first impression, as well as some additional security measures. And then we will be modifying one of our buildings, Fort Fetterman, so that way it can be a more appealing rental hall. For those of you that have been to the State Fairgrounds, we have some really beautiful areas and some really amazing halls. And then we've got some areas that we can elevate so we can continue to increase our interim revenue sources. I am also really looking forward to a collaboration that we're just in the process of undertaking with WRTH, the Wyoming Outdoor Recreation, Tourism, and Hospitality Initiative, for an economic impact study. I know firsthand how much utilization the State Fairgrounds gets. Right now, we're operating just over 400 event days a year outside of the State Fair. So we constantly have multiple renters. We always have a lot going on, but we've never taken the time to quantify that into economic impact. So they have agreed to partner with us. They're doing this free of cost so that we will be able to have a nice document that outlines the true economic impact, not only of State Fair, but of the State Fairgrounds 365 days a year on the state of Wyoming, our surrounding regions, and Converse County. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be a powerful tool for us when we're making informed decisions about the future of the fairgrounds and the types of events that we're working to recruit on our interim season. We also have launched a new agriculture education initiative this season. This was launched in beta in 2023. It's called Everyday Ag, and the intention of this is that we are making sure as the state fair that we are helping everybody that comes to the state fair to learn something about agriculture. This was compiled using resources that are federal, national, state, and we've brought in over 10 partners that have helped us with this collaboration. And a few years ago, we had a conversation at the Joint Ag Committee level asking us as the state fair to help to elevate county fairs across the state. And we really took that to heart. And I think that first and foremost, what we are as fairs is platforms for agriculture engagement and education. As our nation changes, as our state changes, we have to make sure that we're educating everybody that comes to the state fair about the importance of agriculture, whether or not they're in the business of ag. So we spent about 16 months on research and development for Everyday Ag, and we launched the program in 2023. We had over 1,000 people that came to the fair participate in this program. And to me, the most exciting element of this is that we were able to design every element of Everyday Ag as templates, so that way fairs, events, 4-H and FFA, they can all take the resources that we created and make them their own. So we're not just elevating ag education at the state fair, not just even in the state of Wyoming, which is a huge undertaking, but right now Everyday Ag is actually being implemented across 7 states. And I just think that this is the beginning of something really fruitful for agriculture as a whole, and it's been a blessing to be able to be a part of it so far. That was one of my personal highlights of the 2023 State Fair. Some of our other highlights included that we did have increased attendance revenues, and we did have increased grandstand attendance revenues, in addition to bringing back the Ranch Rodeo, which I think has been an amazing partnership. I look forward to working with that team for years to come. And really, it's coming back to Western lifestyle. How are we celebrating ag, Western lifestyle, and of course, our youth and education at the state fair. And I really hope that as we move forward, those will always remain our consistent 4 core values. Yes, we want to generate revenue, but we want to make sure that anytime we're generating revenue, it's from the right causes and it's for the right purposes, because the more that we can be self-sufficient, the more that we can invest back in youth and youth development. I do have a couple of housekeeping items I wanted to bring this committee up to speed on. We have had some turnover within our organization. Right now, out of our 8 full-time staff members that oversee the 137 acres, 60 structures, and 400 event days a year, we are down 2 individuals, one from our administrative team and one from our operations team. So if you know anybody that would like to come and live with us in Douglas, we would really appreciate you sending them our way. We're looking forward to revamping our team a little bit. The folks that we do have on board with us are nothing short of incredible. They're all very entrepreneurial, and they care about the values of the state of Wyoming and the state fair. And I think that that's really helping us to elevate. Those 2 position departures did transpire directly after the fair. And so we have some time to rebuild our team. But if you noticed any wonkiness, it is because we're down about 25% of our full-time team right now. And then I just have a couple more updates for you. We did take the enclosure of the Silver Arena, which is one of our master plan projects. It went through the level 1, level 2 feasibility studies. This is all based off of our 2020 master plan. We were able to take that for level 3 funding consideration to State Building Commission back on July 21st. And I'm pleased to report that it did pass the commission with a favorable recommendation, 4-1. And so keep an eye out for that. I think that this is one of those projects that to me has so many potential benefits, everything from making sure that we're preserving our history and heritage as a state by creating a Western lifestyle multiplex that could be utilized year round. So it really holds dear to those values that we have as the state of Wyoming, but also it has such an amazing opportunity to be a huge revenue generator for the state fairgrounds on a year-round basis. And I think that when we can find those things that align where they make business sense and they make value sense, to me, those are the easiest things for us to say, this is something that we can really get behind and ride for. So we're incredibly optimistic that that will keep gaining traction and that we'll be able to move forward with construction of a new enclosed arena. And the last thing that I wanted to share with all of you today is that over the last few months, the Wyoming State Fair PRCA Rodeo was nominated for Small Rodeo of the Year in the Mountain State Circuit. And just over a week ago, we were honored to win Small Rodeo of the Year for 2023 for the State Fair Rodeo. So it's all good things. And, you know, we're always working to improve and get better. And that's where we rely on you and our constituents to come forward and talk to us about what you want to see, what you need to see. I think our State Fair Board is incredibly open-minded in how they want to make sure they're serving the citizens and serving the goals and objectives of the state of Wyoming. So we just want to keep a very open line of communication. And thank you so much for your time today.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. Do we have any questions for our general manager? Well, I would like to thank you. You are incredibly responsive, and I love the adherence to our Wyoming values and your importance of that and our youth programs. And we appreciate your management of the state fair and your attentiveness to us when we call. So thank you so much. Did you have any comments on the bill that we'll be considering, which is redefining some of the powers of the fair board?
Madam Chair, I think overall we're supportive from the state fair perspective of Senator Boner's bill. We do know that there's been historic challenges with the contracting process. We've taken a good amount of that process in-house over the last 4 years, but there's still some room where we could just make ourselves as the state fair a little bit more nimble. And I can't speak for the Department of Ag or the director, but I do understand that from a regulatory perspective, there's a lot that they have to do, and I respect that. I will always ride for the state fair, and so I know that there's elements where sometimes what maybe we need as the state fair are not quite as high on the priority list because they simply can't be from a department perspective. And I think we as the state fair, we want to be respectful of that. We appreciate the collaboration and the partnership, but I think we also see an opportunity to be more nimble for the future of the fair as well.
All right, thank you for that. We appreciate that. Are there any questions? Yes, thank you, Courtney. I think we'll just have you stand by, and we do have a question for Senator Boner, if he could come back on as we were reading through the bill. We have a question for you, and then we'll try to let you go, but thank you both for joining us via Zoom. Go ahead, Co-Chairman Craigo.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So Chairman Boner, I was reading through this and I should have caught it earlier, but there seems to be maybe some conflicting language within the bill. So on page 2, line 13 through 15, it says the director is responsible for the proper disbursement of all funds appropriated for the annual state fair and fairgrounds. And then, you know, on page 3, lines 14 through 16, we're saying that the state fair board is responsible, that they can expend the funds appropriated. And so how do those two different clauses go together, or do they not? And do we need to take the part about the director out?
Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Craigo, that's a good question. I don't suppose it would hurt to take it out. I think the difference may be, you know, what I'm envisioning is having the state fair board be responsible for you know, the day-to-day accounting, but still be reliant upon the Department of Agriculture for submitting a budget through our budget process. And so I believe that paragraph is primarily talking about our budgeting process, not necessarily keeping a budget, if that makes sense, of, you know, revenues and expenses at the state fair board level. So, you know, it never hurts to take it out. I still do imagine there will still be a relationship between the Department of Agriculture and the State Fair Board, similar to other boards that are, you know, like the Beef Council, for example, that are very independent but still have an administrative avenue through the Department of Agriculture to submit the budget through the governor and then ultimately the legislature. So I'm afraid I don't have a direct answer for you based off that feedback. But I still imagine there'll be some pass through the Department of Agriculture in terms of appropriations. And so that may not necessarily conflict with the objective of the bill.
Follow
up, Madam Chairman. Thank you. I just want to make sure we're not putting confusing language into the green books if we can help it. I mean, I think the rest of the paragraph has to stay because it does talk about the budgeting responsibility and who's going to actually submit the budget, which is the department. Just the language in disbursement's kind of a funny word. It's not the same as expending. Does that, who actually writes the checks? Where does that come from? Which doesn't really come from either of those places. Quite, oftentimes it's going to come from one of the other offices in the state. So as I was reading it, sitting here, I thought, we're trying to shift that responsibility from the director so he doesn't have to be responsible for writing checks or making sure the checks get written by somebody else, that's actually now going to be the board's job. And so maybe just to be clear, we take that out. That's all I was thinking, but I wanted to run it by you. It's first and get your opinion because you know more about this than anybody else. So thank you.
Yeah. And so, Madam Chair, looking at that a little bit more closely. It may be appropriate on page 2, line 13 to strike the word director and insert, state fair board. And additionally on page 2, it may also be in a similar vein. You might want to strike on line 16 and 17, everything after public, since there's a reference to the department's website. Maybe that's not appropriate either, since we are making that shift.
All right. Thank you, Senator. All right. Are there any other questions for either of our Zoom participants? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to the room. Are there any comments from the Director of the Department of Ag? Welcome, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Doug Maymoto. I'm the Director of the Wyoming Department of Agriculture. Also, we think the Department of Agriculture, this will help our efficiency as well. We can go with this fairly easily. I did notice the same thing. I had some what amount to kind of conforming changes elsewhere in the statute that I brought with me today. And if it's all right with you, it might be easier just to hand this to LSO and to you so that you can take a look at it. And then I have about 30 seconds of explanation and that would be it for me. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to continue, in about 30 seconds, I can describe why this makes sense for us at the Department of Agriculture as well. We have 9 affiliate organizations or boards that run budget through the Department of Ag, somewhat similar to what the State Fair Board does. And those fall into 2 different categories. One set of the affiliates, we do we do sign their contracts. We do contracting work with those groups of affiliates. The other ones are affiliates that have their own authorities for contracting and running their money. And so essentially what we would be looking at is taking them from category B within the affiliate list and moving the State Fair Board into category A. And I think that that's appropriate from my standpoint. When this legislation initially passed, this, I think, was the idea of where eventually we would get. You know, we tried to help get the State Fair Board up on their skis and run that budget for a while, but today the State Fair Board wants to run their own money, and I don't have any problem with that at all. So what you'll notice in this draft that I've provided to you is similar to what Chairman Crago brought to your attention as well, which is, all right, let's move this from category B into category A. Take me out as responsible for the proper disbursement. We'll still run that budget that the State Fair Board gives to me. We include that in the Department of Agriculture's budget. And then similar to other affiliates that run money through the Department of Agriculture, my suggestion would be to go, if you look at, it's further in the packet here, on page 7, line 12. This lists me as a voting member of the State Fair Board. And most of the affiliates that run through the Department of Agriculture that have authority for their own money, I serve as an ex officio non-voting member of their boards. So I'm still engaged, but I'm not directly responsible for allocation of their funds. And so I'd recommend the same thing here as putting me in the same category, or whoever the director of the Department of Agriculture would be at that time, in the same category as the governor or his designee, or the dean of the College of Agriculture or her designee. So it would be one of those things where obviously I would want to meet with the State Fair Board and learn what their exception and supplemental budget requests might be, to have that information to take forward through the process as we go through the budgeting process. But other than that, I don't feel it necessary to necessarily be a voting member of a board that has ultimate authority over their own staffing, their own budget. And that is all that I have for you, Madam Chairman. I'm
Thank you,
happy to
Director.
answer any questions.
Perfect. All right, Senator Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director, I guess really two questions. First one is how many voting members is there currently on the Fair Board? It appears it's 12, but I just verification. And if it's 12, we typically never have an even number of voting members, because it gets into ties. And what are your thoughts on that? And secondarily, has there been any time during your experience that you've said to yourself, wow, I'm glad I'm on this group, you know, to be a participant, potentially as a voting member on the Fair Board? Is there any time that you've seen that you thought it was important that you were there, or maybe everything's that's the open-ended question. What's your opinion about that? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairman, Senator, to this point in time, that State Fair Board has been fairly gelled together. I haven't seen any votes that have come down to being close, quite frankly. They've all had pretty much collaborative decision-making processes. Right now, that board is, I believe, 13 voting members, but I haven't looked at it in a while, so I'm not positive about that.
All right. Any further questions? I have one, just because I was a part of initially helping draft this legislation or working on it. Senator Boner and Senator Moniz were instrumental in this bill and have done a great job reorganizing. One of the things we talked about, though, is it's the state fair is a kind of an agricultural function. And so the director of the Department of Ag represents ag. as a vote on the board. And so we wanted to make sure that that balance was correct with the agricultural community and some of the other designees to that board. So do you see any issues staying on as your designee, or you being a voting member as a representative of agriculture, or would you foresee someone else filling that capacity?
Madam Chairman, I don't have any problem with it either way. I was just bringing to the attention of the committee here today that we have other affiliates that have a similar type situation where they're running their own money and they're doing their own management. And in those cases, typically the director is ex officio non-voting, but it doesn't have a huge impact either way.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Senator Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director, could you please, I guess, verify that it is, I count with you 13 members and without you 12 members. And the question is, if that's the case, if you could verify that first, but if that is the case, any suggestions on not having an even numbered board, like of 12 folks instead of having an odd number? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Madam
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
Senator Kolb, given that consideration, just it would be fine to leave me in place then.
All right, thank you for that.
That's my best solution to the problem of having an even number board.
Yeah, okay. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, we'll let you off the hot seat for now. All right, I guess we will go to public comment now. Is there any public comments on this bill? Any online? Seeing none, committee, what is your pleasure? Moved by Larson, seconded by Craigo. Discussion on the bill. Are there any amendments to the bill? Amendments to the bill? Okay, Senator Larson.
Madam Chairman, on, well, what page is that? Page 2, line 13, starting at the director is responsible to line 15, fairgrounds, delete.
Could you restate that? I had trouble hearing you.
Okay. Madam Chairman, line 13, the sentence, the director is responsible for the proper disbursement of all funds appropriated for the annual state fair and fairgrounds. I move to delete that.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Craigo. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment has passed. Are there any further amendments on the bill? Further amendments? I think we heard a September 1 effective date might be better.
Madam
Senator
Chairman,
Larson.
I guess no one else is jumping up. I'll make the motion to change on page 4, line 2, effective September 1.
All right, is there a
2024.
second? Seconded by Cole. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. That amendment has passed. Any further amendments on the bill? Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If, let me just ask this question real quick. I thought if I heard it right, Senator Boner, on page 2, line 16 and 17, he mentioned on line 16, put a period at public and take off on the department's website. If maybe I heard that wrong, but I thought that was the case. And if that is the case, I would make a motion to delete from on the department's website in 16 and 17, line 16 and 17.
Senator Boner, would you care to comment on that?
Yes, Madam Chairman, that is why I suggested. It just seems odd to be so prescriptive exactly how they make that public in statute. So as long as it's made public, that's the important part.
All right, thank you. Is there a second on that amendment? Seconded by French. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Craigo, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I guess my question, maybe this is to to Chairman Boner, is all of these budgets have to be available to the public anyways? So do we even need that clause within the bill draft at all? And if we're not, I guess my question is, where will it be? It's either going to be on the department's website or it would be on the state fair's website, which if you have to choose, which is the better place to put it? Where are people going to look for it? Or is there even a great place to put it on the state fair's website if we're going to prescribe anything by statute? Because if we're not going to say where we're putting it, then I don't think we even need the sentence at all.
All right, Chairman Boner.
That is a fair point. I think that the intent here was to have not necessarily the budget that we're all accustomed to on the ANI website, but have that more detailed, hopefully even a profit or loss statement budget be publicly available as well. I agree. It doesn't necessarily even have to be in statute. That's easily something that can be promulgated by rules, and certainly something we could give more thorough consideration at a later date if we want to do anything at all. So, yeah, either way, you can just quickly delete that additional language, and we'd be fine too.
All right, back to Senator Ide. What would you like?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll withdraw my motion to make that amendment, and we can move on to delete the entire.
Would you like to move on? Would you like to make the amendment to delete the entire sentence?
And I would like to make an amendment to delete the entire sentence.
Is that okay with the second?
Yes.
Okay, Senator French. All right, so as everyone clear, we're deleting all of the new language on line 15 through 17. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That amendment has passed. All right. With that, are there any further amendments from anybody on any page? All right, seeing none, we will take a roll call vote to decide whether we sponsor the bill or not. Would you please call the roll?
Madam Chairman, this is roll call for 24 LSO 0291, State Fair Board Powers and Responsibilities as amended. Senator French,
Aye.
Senator Hicks excused, Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Senator Larson,
Aye.
Representative Allemand,
Aye.
Representative Allred.
Aye.
Representative Banks,
Aye.
Representative Conrad,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Representative Slagle,
Aye.
Representative Winter,
Aye.
Chairman Eklund,
Aye.
Co-Chairman Steinmetz,
Aye.
Co-Chairman Craigo,
Aye.
14 aye, 1 excused.
All right, that bill has passed. Thank you very much for being with us. And we will have a lunch break. And I think we have scheduled to come back at 12:30. Is that enough time for everyone? Oh, go ahead. Is it 1:30? Yep, 1:30. So we'll be back at 1:30, I guess. We may need that time. We are in a college town, so I'm not sure how quickly we can get food here. And so we will take a break until 1:30.